Welcome back for episode 3 of my walk from Taree to Newcastle. So far we've covered 4 days in the last 2 episodes, and we're going to cover another 3 days in this episode. So throughout these 3 days I walk through Mile Lakes National Park, Mungo Brush, and then end in Nelson Bay. So I really enjoyed these days. There's some good footage from these days as well. But I'll leave it there and I'll let you watch the videos, and then we can talk a little bit more about some of the content of those videos when we get to the end. So enjoy. Hey buddy. One of the many goannas that I've seen. So it is day 5. I am about halfway along the Mile Lakes old mining trail. Again, it's a very hot day. This has been a tough day so far and still a long way to go. Basically last night and this morning, when reviewing the track that I wanted to go on, I realized that I couldn't. I hadn't looked at it carefully enough, and where I thought I could just walk along the beach, there was a headland coming out, and that meant that I couldn't get over that rock, obviously not with a bag like this. There was also a fire trail that I could maybe come up from the beach, but I wasn't sure, and after the last couple of experiences I've had bashing through the bush, I didn't want to take that risk again. So the only surefire thing I could do was to backtrack about 8 kilometers from where I slept to the start of this trail. And now this trail is 20 kilometers long, and then it gets to Mungo Brush Road, which I then follow for I'm not quite sure how long, several kilometers maybe, to the campsite. So all in all, it's going to be between probably 35 and 40 kilometers today, which is the biggest day I've done so far. So to that point, I'm just stopping for some lunch and trying to regain some energy. Very, very hot again. I bought more water this morning from a store that I passed, knowing that I was going to be walking in this sunshine all day. So I had about 8 litres of water this morning, a little bit more than I had originally planned for. I'd have already gone through maybe 2 litres or so. The risk is about what time I'll finish tonight, whether I get in before dark. I'm not sure that I will. And obviously yesterday I lost my jacket, so there is a risk that it'll get cold. Hopefully it doesn't, but you know, there's nothing I can do about it. I don't have my jackets, but I've got more layers. I've got a thermal under jumper shirt thingy, and an emergency blanket if I really need it. So I'm not worried about danger of getting cold, like hypothermia cold, but I am worried about uncomfortable cold. So we'll see. Anyway, lunch today is some 2-minute noodles that I saw at the store this morning. Thought that might make a nice little change. And they also had some canned corn and canned peas, so I grabbed those too. So that's lunch, which is nearly ready. So I'm going to eat that and then carry on. Still haven't seen any snakes today, which again I'm super grateful for. I've seen 4 goannas along here though, so they're around, but that's about it. So yeah, I'll eat this, and then yeah, no signal all day today so far. Well, sorry, not all day. Since I've been on this trail, I've had a little bit of signal this morning, just spotty bits, but nothing at all on this trail. So I'm really hoping I've got some signal this evening so I can let everybody know that I'm okay and all that business. So, all right, I'm gonna eat my lunch. Unfortunately, it's not all trail walking. There's been quite a bit of road walking on this track. At least there's a giant shoulder here, and some there's been next to nothing. And people give you a wide berth, which is nice. But yeah, on a hot day it's pretty rough walking on the bitumen. It's pretty fatiguing. But I've got maybe another 10-12 Ks and then I hit Teagardens. So I'm just fantasizing about all the delicious food options and water on tap that Teagardens will provide. Just got to get there. I had a bit of a problem this morning. I realised after using my stove last night, my little jet boil, I must have left the valve on slightly because this morning the little guy had no gas left, which meant I couldn't cook breakfast. So my breakfast this morning has been a Cliff Bar and some dried fruit. So, you know, I'm moving, but I'm hungry. So I have to figure out whether I want to try and replace that gas bottle, maybe in Teagardens if I can find a place, or just buy food that I don't need to cook. I can only think of maybe one night now that's left where I'll be near, or not near anywhere that will have food that I can purchase. So if I pre-purchase some food that doesn't require cooking before then I may not need the stove. But I haven't figured that one out yet, which way I'm going to go with that. For now, I'm just focusing on getting to Teagardens through this yet another hot day. And then, yeah, I can figure it out from there. And then tomorrow is really cruisy because I have to catch the ferry in Teagardens at 2:30, but because I'm walking all the way to Teagardens today, I don't have to go anywhere. And then I've got accommodation in Port Stephens to recharge and freshen up and do some laundry and all that sort of stuff before the last couple of days. But I've also shaved a day off the end, which I'll talk more about later. So tomorrow is it's like a day off. I don't have to really do much at all. So I'm pretty excited about that, but then the last day is going to be long again. So it'll just be a chance to kind of regroup and prepare myself for that final day more than anything. Anyway, keep trudging along this road. It's pretty awesome. I just realized I have a tick on the back of my neck. You'll recall from my last walk, I dealt with leeches. And whilst I want neither one of these things on my body, the tick was certainly the one that I wanted least. And lucky me, now I have one. And not just have one, but it's on the back of my neck where it's going to be very hard for me as an individual to get it off by myself. So that's what I've got to try and figure out what to do tonight. Of course, I've read all the different ways, but both before and now, of removing a tick. So there's a variety of suggestions, but we shall see. So yeah, looking forward to my night's entertainment. That should be fun. I have about another 5 Ks until I get to Teagardens, well, Hawk's Nest, and hoping to stop there tonight. I might even see if I can get some kind of cabin or something, so I've got a bathroom with a mirror. I may need that. We shall see. I'll see if I can record something, record the eviction process. If that doesn't get too out of hand. Okay, good times. So that brings us to the end of episode 3. I hope you enjoyed those couple of days. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about from those videos that maybe I didn't elaborate on, one in particular. So I want to talk a little bit about food. Obviously there was 2 moments of eating during those videos. One was macaroni cheese and the other was 2-minute noodles. So I don't want you to get the wrong idea, and I'm going to talk a little bit about food. I also want to talk about the tick that I got, because in the videos it's really just a passing moment where I talk about the tick, but you can imagine that that was quite a significant event. And then I just want to touch on hiking your own hike and the way that I choose to do my hiking, just to help give a little bit of context too. So talking a little bit about food firstly, obviously I didn't really film myself cooking or eating a whole lot. I think there was one maybe in the first video where I was talking about some oats that I cooked, and oats were a pretty staple part of my diet for this walk. So basically for breakfast what I did is I had a small serve of oats each morning, and I interchanged between one morning having some protein powder with it and the other morning having dried fruit, and I just mix up between those two. During the evenings I had a mixture of things, but I had a bunch of freeze-dried meals left over from the Great North Walk. So they varied in terms of what they were, but they were big meals. And then I also took small serves of polenta with actually a bit of chicken noodle soup mixed into it just for flavour. And they worked out to be really well as well. So I had a very boring standard diet for the whole walk, but as I often do, and I'll talk about this a bit more when I mention about hiking your own hike, is when I come across food or stores, I buy what I can. And sometimes that's comfort food, sometimes it's food that's required for necessity. Hopefully not the latter, because I try to pack everything that I need. And it does mean sometimes that I come home with excess food because I didn't eat some of the food I took with me. But the way that I approach these things is to make sure I have everything that I need. And if I get anything in addition to that, great, So yeah, although I'm seen eating macaroni cheese and 2-minute noodles, they really were a luxury that I managed to pick up along the way. It's certainly not what my diet was the whole time, and I think if it was, I probably would have fallen over in a heap. But sometimes eating comfort food is so important, just to the end of a really long day to have macaroni cheese, which I'm a sucker for. It just helps you sign off the day feeling good. So yeah, that kind of sums up comfort food a little bit for me, and whether that's a coffee in the morning or anything that I can find if I'm, within civilization, I'll absolutely do that. This isn't about a hike where, I'm trying to survive off the land or anything like that. Just like I've said with the Great North Walk, that's never what the intention is. The primary objective, and really the only objective I have for these walks, is to get from A to B. Anything around that, accommodation, food, all of that is subject to what I find along the way. So yeah. So then talking a little bit about the tick. So as I said, the video, I really just say that I've got a tick on the back of my neck, and I might try and share more about that later. Now, I didn't do that because, as was very typical with this walk, whenever I finished for the day, I was just mentally and physically fatigued, and I really didn't want to go about doing much more with the video. But I did manage to book into a motel that night. The holiday park that was there, or the caravan park, they weren't answering. I couldn't get through to their office, so I didn't try to go there and get a cabin or something like that. There was a motel directly across the road, so I just booked a night there. And the reason I did that was primarily for the tick. I knew I wanted to deal with it, or at least I wanted to try dealing with it. And I thought that would be easier, in a setting like that, and obviously cleaner too. Now, I feel like the tick, just like leeches, is one of those things that for someone who's spending all of their time in the bush and has done for many years, getting a tick or a leech would probably be a relatively minor deal. For someone who's having one for the first time, I wasn't particularly stressed, but it was a bigger deal, right? Like I didn't know exactly the right way I wanted to go about getting rid of it. I didn't know what my chances are of getting sick from it were. So it was something that I wanted to deal with and deal with properly. So I got to a motel, and I thought about what I could do to get rid of this tick, and I got some feedback from people. I did some Google searching as well, and I had sort of resigned myself to just trying to get it out myself maybe the next day. There was a chemist and a GP in the town. I was in Hawk's Nest, and I thought about maybe going to the GP and getting them to remove the tick. Part of me thought that was very sensible, you know, why not get a doctor to do it? And part of me thought that was massive overkill, right, to get a doctor to do the tick. So I didn't make a decision on that. They were closed for the night anyway, so I figured if I was going to go, it would be the next day. So I kind of thought that I would just leave it for the night and deal with it in the morning. At the very least, I could maybe go to the chemist and ask some more advice. That lasted maybe 10-15 minutes before I was like, no, I'm not going to bed with this thing on my neck. I can't go to sleep knowing there's this thing embedded in my neck. And also, I had to go out and get some food, and I thought, I don't want to be walking around with a tick in the back of my neck. That's horrible. So I dealt with it then and there. And I did say I would take video of the moment, but again, I didn't. I did take some photos, and I'll try and put them into this video. But all I basically did was get some tweezers out of my first aid kit, and they certainly weren't tick tweezers by any stretch. They were probably wholly inappropriate for what I was doing. So this was an area of weakness that I now need to make sure I'm better for in future walks. But I basically just grabbed that little sucker and gave him a good tug. And I had dealt with one tick before. I wasn't the carrier of said tick, but I felt what it felt like trying to remove one, and they are tough. You know, you think that you're going to squeeze this bug or grab this bug and it's going to be a little squishy or something like that. No, they're really tough. And the part of their body or their head that they stick into your skin, it's like multiple barbs, right? So once it's in, pulling it out is really tough. And that's why obviously when a lot of people try to pull the tick out, the head remains embedded, which is exactly what happened to me. So I did my best to pull him out, and I grabbed as close to the skin as I could, but it didn't matter how hard I pulled or what I did, I just could not get it to budge. And ultimately, as I pulled harder and harder, I think the tweezers slipped a little bit because again, they weren't sort of so fine that they could get under the tick, which is what you want. They were quite broad, and so in the end, the tick just, broke apart. And I got most of him off, but of course there was a bit still embedded, which is the same old story. In any case, that healed up, and it took about 2 weeks until the rest of the little guy came out. I didn't get any bad reactions or anything like that so far, but it was quite the experience. Not one I really want to repeat, and so being more mindful of how I can repel ticks and deal with them once I get them is something that I want to strengthen before my next walk. And same goes for leeches. I have some anecdotal information on how to deal with them, but if I got one on me, I would be in the same position, like, well, what do I do now? How's best to deal with this? So yeah, I need to get better at that. But that was an experience, and I still have a little scar on the back of my neck from where he was. So yeah, that was quite an experience. And that and the food topic tie into hiking your own hike. And I feel like I harp on this a little bit, and it's for good reason, and that's because I feel like it doesn't matter how you approach a hike, there's always going to be someone that tells you how you should be doing it, right? If you go out with a ton of tech, someone will tell you should have no technology. If you go out with a map, someone will tell you, that's superseded and you should be using technology. If you go out geared up with all your hiking gear, someone will say you should be out there, barefoot and connecting with nature. And none of these things are right or wrong. It's just all about your own enjoyment. And so, the thing that I hear the most with the way that I hike is about the weight of my bag. And I know I talked a lot about this with the Great North Walk, and I tried to get my bag lighter for this walk, and I did a little bit, but not a lot. And I was also very conscious of the gear that I took, and ultimately that helped with the weight, that little bit that I mentioned, but it didn't really change a lot. And the gear that I did take, I used heavily. Now I know there's some areas for improvement. For example, my mattress is heavier and larger than it should be, so I need to work on that. But for me, carrying that weight, it's part of the challenge. I'm maybe at an age where I can still do it. I know that as maybe I'll get older, or as other people experience when they're older, carrying that weight might just be not feasible. But it's part of the challenge for me. And even between the Great North Walk and this walk, I've noticed how much better I can cope with it. And things like which you'll see maybe in the next video, I think, or I'm trying to think, yes, next video. Little things like wrapping a scarf around my hips so that when I put a bag on, it doesn't put all the weight straight onto my hip bones. Little things like that I'm learning along the way is just making it easier. So yeah, I get comments from people that are, you know, a few words that literally say, why the hell is your bag so heavy? And, you know, I get it. For those people, it's something that they either don't want to or they can't do. And that's fine. You know, everybody's different. For me, I can do it and I enjoy doing it. And so that's how I'm going to do it. And that's not to say that over the next however many years, the way that I approach my hiking won't change. I'm sure that it will. But it works for me now. And I like carrying the things that I'm carrying. You know, obviously I'm taking a lot of tech gear as well, which means weight. So it is the way that it is. But you know, for me, absolutely wanting to hike the way that I enjoy and do things the way that I enjoy, that's what makes it the thing that it is for me. If I tried to do it the way that somebody else suggested, or the way that is correct according to whoever, you know, it's not going to be my hike anymore. So I'm very much about learning for myself, you know, making those trials and errors myself. And then, you know, the accomplishments my own as well. So yeah, to me it's very important to hike your own hike. You know, I see people calorie counting, I see people, you know, measuring every gram of their weight, all that stuff, and that's perfectly fine. That's the way they do things. For me, you know, I kind of like the more casual style, and, you know, if it gets tough as a result, then, you know, I just need to get tougher. So far so good. But yeah, hike your own hike, you know, do it the way you want to do it. Have your errors, have your wins. Don't let somebody else craft your hike for you, basically. Anyway, I've definitely spoken enough. So thank you again for watching episode 3. I'll let you go now. And again, as I keep reminding everybody, and I'm sorry for doing so, but if you like the video, click like. If you want to see more, click subscribe. But yeah, episode 4 is up next. So yeah, please enjoy, and thanks again for watching.